Welcome to the Connected Car panel of the Radiodays Europe. You're all more than welcome here in the sunny and very summery Prague. So yes, I hear some of you saying to yourself, another panel on connected cars. And I will answer, yes, another panel on connected car. Because day after day, with each technological evolution, with each new dashboard, with each newcomer from the big tech companies trying to take over the connected dashboards, our industry, our radio, our audio industry must respond to new challenges, while the place of the radio in the car is always more crucial to preserve a relationship with the audience. As cars become even more connected today, broadcasters are finding ever smarter answers to preserve the radio's place, and our distinguished speaker today will give you the big picture so you can make the best decisions while you're coming back at the office. So welcome this morning to Miss Gwendolin Niehues from the RRD, Public Service Broadcaster in Germany, Roger Lanctot from Tech Insight, and Christian Winter, who just drove from Ingolstadt to be with us this morning for Cariad, the digital brand of the VW Group. Thank you all, and Roger, you will be the first to advocate the case for our delegate. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthieu. I'm going to touch on something a little existential with regard to privacy, or rather, I'm not going to get into the privacy implications of what I'm going to talk about, but there will be some privacy implications. I also want to say, as an American, I immediately acknowledge my naivete regarding the historical context in Europe. At CES, I was telling my fellow speakers here about at CES, I was meeting with a large weather analytics company from Finland who was talking about all the Russians who were driving their expensive cars and leaving them at Helsinki airport to fly out and escape the mayhem. And then I ran into some Polish software entrepreneurs, and I said, well, is there anything like this going on in Poland? And he said, no. If the Russians come to Poland, we will kill them and burn their cars. So I was, oh, of course. I knew that. So let's talk about automotive content management in the car. This is the value proposition at stake here, and I want to clear something up right away, which I feel like I'm the only one talking about this, so I'm going to talk about it again until my face turns blue. The car is a browser, okay? What does that mean? It means that everything you do in a car is an indication of your intent. And very often it's an intent to conduct some sort of a commercial activity, and it's a unique advertising environment, and radio has owned this advertising environment for 80 years, and there's the opportunity for attribution to directly connect an advertising proposition with a commercial behavior, and of course an extraordinary opportunity for audience measurement. Now, as I said, there's a privacy implication. We're not going to talk about that here, but it is there. It's the elephant in the room. Cars are connected in a wide variety of ways today. Radio is just one of those connections. So lots of wireless connections to the car. And I note this as well because not only are there a lot of connections in the car, there's also cameras on the roadway. So I might argue that you don't really have a whole lot of privacy in your car. But again, I'm not going there. The other issue is car companies and wireless carriers have kind of a fraught relationship. I like to say wireless carriers don't understand car companies, and car companies can't stand wireless carriers. But the connection in the car has become a necessary evil. It's a regulatory requirement from the UNECE for software updates and cybersecurity. And so now we are using connectivity as well with the onset of 5G for safety applications. So connectivity matters in the car, it's necessary in the car, and the quality of that connection matters to car companies more than it ever has before. However, there are a lot of challenges. How much data are we going to send over that pipe? It gets very expensive very quickly, so we have solutions in the market that are emerging from companies such as Nexar, where you get this conversation about edge computing. Which data do we send, under what circumstances, and at what time? And part of that could be that audience measurement we're talking about, but edge computing matters in the car, and this is part of that whole data conversation about the billions of dollars in data from the car in value that are being created. Well, we're just at the beginning of that journey. I'm not going to talk in great detail about how the networks are evolving. Suffice it to say that the automotive industry stubbed its toe on eCall in Europe because the standard was written around 2G and 3G, and those networks are going to be shut down. And of course, we have 5G coming down the pike. Suffice it to say, automakers are not going to be fooled this time. They're not going to put the cheapest connectivity device in the car. They're going to want to have 5G in the car. That means low latency, and it's going to transform the experience. So 5G matters for wireless connectivity. The other thing I want to address is because we have what you all, I'm sure, have heard about the software-defined vehicle, the software-defined car, we need to be connected to those cars. And oh, by the way, as an automaker, you need to care about that connection over time, and you probably need to have a means of gathering revenue to support that connectivity over time. So long-term, in the automotive industry, we're talking about a subscription-based relationship with the customer, with that vehicle. And so I'm here to say consumers are willing to pay. So we all might think, oh, connectivity, I've got my smartphone, that's all I care about, connecting in the car. Well, the movement is away from smartphone projection and towards embedded connectivity and a subscription-based model. Again, here's the 5G forecast. I forgot to mention, if you want these slides, just contact me over LinkedIn. I'll send you the slides, no problem at all. Just give me your email address. The other thing we're going to see in the car, again based on Euro NCAP, European regulations, which will probably be adopted elsewhere in the world, is driver monitoring. We need to make sure the customer in the car is paying attention to the driving task, especially if we want to offer enhanced driving capabilities like semi-automated driving. So your car is going to be watching you, okay? That may creep you out, but it's simply a reality. But it also means there's probably going to be opportunities for credentialing and identifying who's driving the car, safety implications, but also, again, audience measurement. Who is actually listening to what's coming into the vehicle? I'm not going to talk in detail about satellite connectivity, but that's on the way as well, and that's part of the proposition for enhanced location accuracy. So location accuracy is critical in the car. Probably important to advertisers as well. And what are the connectivity implications? So everything is connected in the car. Hybrid navigation, hybrid radio. So more types of connectivity will mean improved location services. So we're getting very enhanced contextual awareness in the car, all around navigation. And that enhanced contextual awareness is creating new value propositions in the car for that content consumption. And new content management platforms are coming into the car. Again, we want a deeper engagement with the customer, personalization, and identifying who that person is and what content they might want next. Digital assistants are widespread in the car today and spreading out. I have a 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5 in my driveway. It took my 30-year-old son to show me, Dad, just talk to the car and it'll do what you want it to do. So voice is becoming the dominant UI in the car. And then app stores. So we have Christian here with Audi. Audi is deploying the Cariad App Store with the help of Faurecia Aptoid. Mercedes-Benz is sitting out front with the App Store from, no, Mercedes? Mercedes has Faurecia. Cariad has Harman's Ignite Store, pardon me. But these are just a couple of the app experiences in the car. You have Aiden Auto, P3, 4Screen. All of these companies are trying to create a contextual experience in the car. I'm sorry to say we've been trying to do this for 13 years in the industry. And we've had some very high-profile failures already from GM and Harman when they bought AHA Radio 13 years ago. So it's a problem we've been trying to solve for a very long time to create this ultimate contextual experience, which ironically radio has been doing for 80 years. Location aware and privacy preserved experience. These are just some of the recent announcements. What's notable about Mercedes, and why it's worth your attention out front, is they are announcing that the car is an entertainment center, which was, as an industry analyst, I was a little shocked at because I'd like to see safety emphasized, actually. Embedded versus projected experience. They don't want you to use Android Auto. They don't want you to use CarPlay. They want all of that embedded streaming experience to be built into the dashboard. Mercedes' control of the user experience and data. So the big news in that Mercedes announcement, again reflected in the vehicle out front, was the unbundling of Google Maps and all that Google content from the Google user interface and the Google experience. Mercedes wants to own all of that. The emphasis on connectivity. They had Google on stage talking about a Google navigation, Google Maps experience. Mercedes-Benz is a joint venture owner of Here Maps for navigation. There was no mention of Here Maps embedded in the car. It was all a cloud-based solution. And more importantly, and the bottom line here is Mercedes expects to sell a bleep load of access to content and services in their car. They expect to sell billions of dollars of content and services in the car. That's the game plan. And they already claim they have $1 billion in the bank in the past year that they've racked up from that activity. So I won't go through all these conclusions and recommendations, and this is directly from actually a client presentation, so you can see here, if you get my presentation, what we're actually telling our clients to do to take on these competitive issues. But most importantly, the final takeaway, regulations require connectivity and driver monitoring. Add consent management and credentialing, and you have an in-vehicle e-commerce platform. This is the direction in the industry. The next level experience in the car will be contextually aware for delivering enhanced safety and enriching content engagement. The car is a unique advertising environment, and digital radio represents a unique advertising opportunity. And somebody somewhere, either in this room or outside, is going to figure this out and capitalize. There's a big opportunity here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Roger. Please feeling lucky, you can feel lucky to have such an overview on such an evolving market with these latest data, so thank you, Roger. If you want to go deeper in the life of a car maker and go deeper in the life of a digital brand of a car maker, please welcome on stage Christian Winter from Cariad, the part of the VW group. Thank you. You just come from Barcelona, I guess.
Not really. It's at Ingolstadt. So, welcome everyone. My colleague Sven Eckoldt couldn't make it because of the strike in Germany, so I jumped in. Yeah, basically I'm from Cariad, and Cariad is the newest member of the Volkswagen Group, which means we are developing the infotainment system, the radio, the software for the Volkswagen Group, and we for the future cars, and we already starting releasing products this year. So let's just jump in. What's going on at the moment in the car? The car is always on. That's changed. It's like the customer have their smartphones. It's always online. We have the internet connectivity. Roger said. It's all about e-mobility and autonomous driving. So there are new use cases on that as well, like charging your car, what you're doing in that time. And everything is software in the car. It's getting more and more abstracted, and you get more software in the car, and the car is becoming a device. So what does this mean, these new use cases in automotive? Well, you are connected. You have the connectivity, you have the electrification, you have the screens, not just the main screen or the cluster instrument screen, but even passenger screens, or like other car brands do, screens in the back for entertainment of your kids, for example. And other opportunities are the autonomous driving. This leads me to the next point, a little video that we are doing. So as Roger mentioned, we launched at the MWC in Barcelona the App Store for the Audi cars this year. So that means you can now create your own Android-based, template-based media apps and deploy it directly to the Harman Ignite store. And from that, you can have your radio app in the car. So this is the first product Cariad deliver, and this year is our year of delivery, and there will be more and more cars outside and new products in the market soon. So what does this mean? So this means now for the first time you get more than just a standard apps or functionality in the infotainment system. You are now able to download apps for different categories. It's not just, it can be about work, like having your WebEx meeting in the car, about additional navigation, not just the one which is built in. Maybe you have a better app for route planning, about charging, parking, and obviously media like audio, but also video. So you get the streaming players in there like Spotify, but also traditional radio apps like, for example, Radio Player or German ARD Audiothek, for example. And there are even more possibilities like gaming, for example. Some small games which are, get the time running when the car is charging, for example. So this is a short look of how this looks in the car. Video is quite long, so there are many apps already running, it's up in the market in this year already, and we're very excited. So what does it mean actually? Apps will be a thing in the car. It gives you new opportunities, because before that it was not really able to, radio stations or brands were not really able to bring the app directly into the car. There were tries, like Roger said, even 10 years ago people wanted apps in there, but it was not really a common ground how you build the app. Now this app is basically the Android automotive app is 99% you already have when you have an Android app. You just need to do additional stuff like getting your app ready for that. It's not just distracting the driver and so on, but in the end you can share your code from your app for the car. So it's very, very easy to adapt your app to the car. This is done by utilizing templates for audio and stuff. So it's very easy. The apps looks quite the same, so you don't need to think about how the UI in the car works. This does the operating system does it for you. It gives you more data endpoints and helps you to enhance the user experience in your car. And you are able to maybe have new use cases for automotive. I think Gwen will show you something later, which the ARD did. Quite creative new features you can have. So this is about all the new apps, and I want to jump to the basically oldest app in the car. It's the radio, and in our cars they have also a hybrid radio experience, which means it enhances the broadcast radio with station logos, for example, or online data. So the radio looks more competitive to other media apps like streaming apps, for example, in the car. So one thing is how it looks like, and one other thing is about the user experience. So hybrid radio also means that we have the automatic online station following. That means the customer don't really know about the technique, FM, DAB, streaming. They don't care. They just want to listen to your brand, to your station. And hybrid radio enables that, because it doesn't matter where you are. It uses the best way the station can be received. Either it's online or DAB or FM. Jumping to the next point and final point. Also, this is also growing in the car. We're coming in regards speech systems from a technology point of view, like just usability, just drive me there, or I want to drive there, or PlayStation, ABC, to a new, more digital assistant experience. That means it gets more and more richer. The assistant, for example, not just can play your station if you say it to the assistant, but it also can suggest things like, do you want to listen to this podcast episode because it finishes right on time when you're arriving at work, for example, or it suggests things like, do you want to listen to the new rock station, and so on. So things are changing in a car quite fast, and it's really exciting and gives lots of new opportunities to all the radio stations. Thanks.
I think we will have time at the end of this session, so save your questions for our speakers today, because they will have the answers you need. Gwendolin, the stage is yours, and you are the broadcaster point of view of this panel, so thank you.
Yes, exactly, thank you. So I'm here to kind of give you a bit of an insight of how we in Germany make sense of all these new developments that you just heard about, so how we keep our content front and center in the connected car. And I think the question that always comes up is, where did the radio button go? So for us, I'll just start with the App Store, just because Carrie just spoke, and as you can see here, our ARD Audiothek is in the Carriot App Store, because for us, the ARD Audiothek is our central platform for radio, podcasts, and live audio events. So that's for us very important that we see that as our main platform, and that's also the main platform when it comes to apps that we want to distribute in cars, because we still believe that audio, as of now, is one of the most important use cases, and we want to centralize that in the Audiothek. Of course, the Audiothek is originally a phone app, but for us it's important to think that we're not just mirroring that in the car, but the car is a different use case. And a car app store is not a phone app store, it's a different interface, and the car user experience is a different one than it is on the phone. So that's why for us it's quite important that we think differently when developing the app for an automotive context, and that includes coming up with innovative new ways of listening. And one example that our local broadcasters, the SWR and the BR from Bavaria, and are developing right now, for now together with Carriot as a first launch partner, is Audiothek unterwegs, or Audiothek on the go. And that's an extension of the Audiothek app for an in-car usage, and what it does, it uses geo-localized data to play out content that's relevant for your location. I'm sure you all know the brown brown sites in Germany. We have them, I think, in a couple of other countries. You also have them, those signs that give you information on which sites are in the area. And I know you've all probably had that situation that you actually think, sure, now I know that this church is there, but what is it about? What's happening there? What's interesting about that church? And if you now drive with the Audiothek on, the Audiothek will give you the option to listen to an audio piece on that local site, which I think is quite exciting, because it makes use of one of the things that we're strongest in radio is regional content. It's something that Spotify, for example, can't offer. And that I think is an interesting idea of how we can use the use case automotive to play out our content in different ways. And that's for us quite important, that we think of the Audiothek as a product that we adapt to the use case that we have. And that's just one example that we're now launching with Carriot and other partners soon. But of course, the App Store gives us possibility to not only play out audio, but ARD, of course, also has video content. So we could possibly extend the ARD portfolio to our core brands, which is video, news, sports, kids. And I think it's quite exciting that now in the cars of the future, it's possible to extend our portfolio and to bring these apps into the car. But of course, what about radio? What about this nice old school picture that I have here? Of course, the radio is our first app in the car, the app that's always been there, and the app that stays very, very important. That's why for us, we strongly believe that we need to keep pushing radio in the car, and that it stays a relevant medium. And also that these two worlds of the app world in the car and the radio world in the car aren't necessarily separate. I think right now they seem very separate, but I think there's a lot of room for overlapping and for, in the end, if we think about our user in the center, creating a great user experience. But for us, the main principles for radio in the car are radio needs to remain easy to use. It needs to have that push of a button experience. Even if that's not a physical button, it needs to feel like the push of a button. Because if we think about radio, why is radio so great? It's because it's always there, it shows up fast, you don't need to make a choice, and it's really important that even if that happens in an app or if in a radio tuner, that radio has that feeling of I just push one button and it's there, because that remains the most important use case for radio in the car. Secondly, radio should not just be easy to find, it should be impossible to miss. It needs to be on that first layer, however that happens, because again, that's why radio is great. It's easy to find, it's impossible to miss. And thirdly, we now talk a lot about personalization, and that's important, but it should also be personalized responsibly, because radio is that trusted medium that, you know, especially as a public service broadcaster, we deal with data responsibly, and of course also the personalization should make sense. You know, it should not take away from that character of discovering new things, of just having someone curate content for you. And lastly, radio comes as a package, so it covers public and commercial and independent, local, all formats. Radio experience needs to be an experience as one, and that's especially interesting when we think about app stores, like how can we retain that experience of having the radio where you can switch between different channels and so on. For us as ARD, as you might know, we're in ourselves already a quite complex organization. We have 9 local broadcasters, so for us collaboration is key. First of all, on a national level, we're really trying to centralize our efforts in the automotive market, but for us really important is also the collaboration in the EBU, because we believe that we can innovate all we want on a local level, but if we don't come up with standards and with principles on a at least European level, car makers won't be interested because they think internationally, globally. And then through the EBU, for us, the collaboration with the industry is very important, because we don't think we need to exist in a separate world, and especially now that automotive manufacturers are more becoming software companies and they have new ways of bringing content into the car, it's really important that we collaborate and innovate together. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwendolin. Can I just ask the first question to you, and after I think we will have some question from the room. As a radio player, within your organization, was it hard to convince your management to spend so many time and energy on inventing things for the connected car? Was it a challenge, or was it easy, because we need to be in cars?
Of course, it's always you always have challenges, but I think everyone knows that automotive is very important for radio because it just remains the biggest use case. And I think for us, what was important was this mindset switch of, because I think it's easy as a broadcaster to always think radio is dying and radio is dead, and we are in this constant survival mode. But I think the most important switch was actually thinking, no, it's actually a great new opportunity, because we have new opportunities to get into the car. It's not just about survival, it's about thriving and coming up with new situations.
Thank you, and thank you for being such an advocate. I think we've got a question. Francis, first row. Usual suspect.
Thank you. Gwendolin, I took a picture of one of your slides showing radio comes as a package. It covers public and commercial radio station, independent and local, across all formats, and all audio types. I think the same. But for me, it sounds like radio player, no?
I mean, that's of course a great option for bringing together radio. I think we're all just exploring this new space, what our situation, like what our place in this new industry is. I think for us it's just really important, if you think about it from a user-centric perspective, some users might want to get more content in the audiothek, in their own, in that environment. Some users just want to have a great radio tuner in their car where they can have all stations. We just think that it's important to kind of retain this idea of what radio has always been, which is a package.
So you will develop something else typically for Germany, specifically for Germany?
What do you mean?
Well, you will develop, you would like to develop a kind of radio player but dedicated for the German radio stations only.
No, I mean, for now, we just want to create a platform where people that already listen to ARD content can find more content, can find podcasts. And then, of course, the discussion is always how does that fit within a wider ecosystem.
And just, if I may, sorry for right question. So, are you open to add so many apps?
Yes.
From broadcasters industry?
The App Store is not regulated by us. It's basically everyone. If your app is compatible with the car and it goes through the store, it's in there. So it's not like a car manufacturer can say, I like this one better, or I have this exclusive contract. It's like if you develop an app, it's in there. If you're a small radio station and just do that, it's in there. Or not, so yeah.
Another question? Yeah, gentleman in the back. Thank you.
Yeah, the question from me, Matthieu. I'm creating the apps for the radio and wanted just to ask the lady from ARD, as you create the application for radios, for the cars, how do you balance the less distractive mode between how the content is rich on the platform? So how do you finding that sensitive balance between that two things? Thanks.
Yeah, that's of course very important. I think the good thing about Android Automotive specifically is that there's quite clear driver distraction guidelines, and I think our developers followed that very clearly. But it's of course also super important, and that's where the collaboration with industry is important, that you're able to test the app in a car, because that's always different than testing it on a tablet. But I think the driver distraction guidelines are of course super important, and especially with Android Automotive.
But not always also clear, because there is still some features that can distract you that you can add there. So yeah, but it's also always sensitive case. Yeah, thank you very much.
Is there any other question? Everybody's shy this morning. Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, I just want to ask how much Spotify paid to be the audio default, you know, to be on the demo like everywhere.
Well, the app is already in the store. I think the first store, Android Automotive store, was in the Polestar 2, and I think Spotify has now an app for 2 years, and that's like I think also others like Radio Player and so on. So that's why they are on the pictures, because they already uploaded their apps, and others can do that as well. So as I said, if you have a good Android tablet app, it's very easy to convert this app to an automotive app. The problem is, and that maybe Roger said, there are different app stores. So it's not just the one Carriot or the Volkswagen Group is using is the Hamann store, but there is also the Google Automotive Store, and what is the other called? Faurecia. So in the end, maybe this will change in the future, but at the moment we will have not one, but probably 3 app stores where you can upload your app.
Yeah, but it's default, right? Or
no, it's not. There's no app installed default besides your broadcast radio app. It's just the customer needs to decide. There is no exclusive contracts about pre-installing an app. It's just up to the user what they install or not.
Let's be clear on this. When I'm buying the car, I'm out of the exhibition hall of VW Group brand. What's happening when I'm turning my system on? Is there any pre-installed app or absolutely nothing, and it's my job to download the app?
It's the stock apps in there, like radio and navigation and phone and CarPlay, and then you need to create a user, and if you have your user, then you can log in, and then you have access to the store. And the apps in the store at the moment, there is no real. So if you get the store, the apps are for free. So it's not like a subscription model or anything. You just get a store. This may change in the future for other car manufacturers, but at the moment you can just download the app and install it what you want. You are not forced to download all of them, because I think the App Store will get many apps soon. At the moment it's like 30 apps in there, but when more and more car manufacturers are in there, yeah, it will change.
I did appreciate a design principle from Gwendolin that radio in the car should be impossible to miss. Yeah. Because when I start up my Hyundai Ioniq 5, I have to do a couple of sweeps to get to the radio button. Yeah, this is a big change from just 5-10 years ago.
When you say radio button in a room, Thomas Granried is asking the mic. Do we have the mic for Thomas? Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. This is the last question.
Thanks. Just a question around the radio button, but actually around voice, because that would perhaps be the radio button. Voice has always been like the future of the car, but it's also been very bad as an user experience because there's so many conflicts when you're asking for stuff. So when you're talking about that CARIAD is going to use voice more as a digital assistant rather than just voice navigation, what should we as broadcasters do in order to kind of make it easier, the user experience? So it's not like conflicts between the FMDAB and the actual app the company has.
Basically it's about standardization. It's about getting access to these metadata, about how you pronounce a station, about different names of the stations. We are aware of the problem. Radio stations, Germany, they have slightly sometimes English names, German names, a mixture, abbreviations, and so on, or people saying the old name of the station, even there was a rebranding 5 years ago, and all that. And we partner with Radiodays and Radio Player and get their metadata there as well, and try to make the speech assistant or digital assistant better, so that it recognizes your station more in more detail better.
And will you be actually served the FMDAB experience or the hybrid radio experience, or will you be served the ARD Audiotech app when you ask for an Audiotech station?
No, in that case, it will be the hybrid radio, our app, and it will get the data from our partners and our backend, and will enhance that. And of course, the assistant learns it and maybe understands in other apps when they're offering a voice interface those stations as well. But in the end, the default is the broadcast radio.
Yeah, so now in my car, I ask for WAMU, and the car says, tuning to 88.5, almost saying like, just ask for the number, not the call letters of the station. But I do want to make a distinction on two different kinds of hybrid radio. So the Audi solution is an in-house solution that will follow, if you lose the terrestrial signal, it will pick up the stream seamlessly. I have a hybrid radio enabled by Xperi in my Hyundai, which is getting metadata infused dynamically and live, not from a fixed file in the car, but from the internet. And Hyundai's eating the cost of that IP feed to the radio. So I have a connected radio, which is also what you have in Tesla today and in Mercedes. So the radio is becoming connected, and the voice interface is becoming the standard way to access that content, pretty much. Just like on the radio, if I'm listening to WAMU in the US, it will tell me to ask for it on my smart speaker, and it usually is provided by TuneIn. I have an Alexa, and I ask for WAMU, and it says WAMU brought to you by TuneIn. Same experience in the car, but not Alexa in my car.
Well, the radio in the Audis or in the Porsches, it's hybrid. It's a hybrid radio. It's also connected there as well. So it's not like it's always getting daily updates. If you change your logo in the next day, it's in the car and so on. So it's similar to that. And yeah, since I think Radio Days 2018 Vienna, we presented it. So it's not new.